Hey y'all, welcome to part two of our conversation with our amazing speaker on the Do the Change podcast. We're going to hop right back into the conversation. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify page, and follow us on Instagram at Do the Change Podcast. Okay, so it is time to transition into Tea Time with Tyler. So basically, we get into the nitty gritties. So, first question is, have you encountered any moments of self-doubt or imposter syndrome throughout your academic journey and also outside of that?
1,000% yes. And I feel like examples are gonna be asked.
Yeah, I mean, if you would like to, it's totally up to you what you want to share, but if you want to, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Um, I want to zero in on my grad experience because I feel
Yeah.
like um to date, I have never been exposed to anything as rigorous as a grad degree. So
Yeah.
I feel like this was one of the moments in my life that I truly felt truly stretched, truly challenged academically, socially, emotionally. And part of it too was maybe just expectations, maybe false expectations, maybe perceived expectations,
Mm-hmm.
on being accepted to Cal. It's not that I did not know I was capable. I knew that inherently. However, when I wasn't performing, let's say, well in a quiz or a test in
Right.
biostatistics or epi, it was really, really hard not to to feel like it was my fault, and in as much as the institution, Berkeley School of Public Health, offered the resources to tap um, assistance and help and coaching, it's I still felt that there were moments where I struggled, and I I don't know whether I'll be able to ever get an answer to that. Maybe part of that is just like part of just the process of um uh just going through hardships, part of them either outside of me, you know, things that I cannot control. But yeah, grad school definitely revealed a lot of those moments. And yeah, let me pause there for now.
I mean, I also want to add some context, which is part of going to be another question, but our particular program was not diverse. Diverse would be a stretch if I called our program diverse or our department diverse. I'll say that. Um, but I say that to say that I guess I want to not only give the context, but also acknowledge that it's a very fair feeling to feel like we don't like something is wrong or like that. Not that we don't belong in this space, but like, is something wrong when we look left and right and there's not a lot of us there? Like, you know what I'm saying? So, um,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess I want to add maybe a note of comfort of like I felt the same way, even though I didn't really express it. I felt the same way, and part of that was like there wasn't a lot of people to turn to. Granted, we did have friends that were great and definitely saved our butts a couple times in classes, but there is something to looking around and seeing people who look like you in the spaces and classes that we had that I wish we had sooner, because we did have classes like leadership classes where we saw other folks of color and it was great. Um, and not to take away from the difficulty of those classes, but like I think it's a lot. I think there's a lot that adds to imposter syndrome, and one of those things is
Yes.
like visual. Like visually, I don't see us there. And there are things that could be improved upon about that. And it doesn't help when you're kind of beating yourself up and then you're looking out and you don't see you there. Um, so I
Tara,
hear you.
thank
I'm
you.
with you. I'm right there.
Thank you for that note of comfort. And also three, just thank you for also just re-asking that question in a different format, because also maybe something that I was also maybe scared of acknowledging, but
Yeah.
now I'm gonna acknowledge it, is
Yeah.
being the only Black male in
Yes.
our program was hard. And
Yes.
yes, while our community is resilient and yes, has been minoritized in other spaces as well, to where we take on the
Right.
role of navigating or self-navigating because we have no choice. I feel like that was hard at Berkeley. It
Yeah.
was to know that, it was hard to realize that, and go to your point, like when you look around and you feel like, no, the reality is that you're the only one.
Yes. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard, and yes, that adds to all the other things that all the other students are going through, and um, it's something that for me never felt like something I could say up until that maybe you and I started talking about it, and
Yeah.
other students of color who felt comfortable and brave enough to talk about it, because I
Yeah.
think because we're so used to dealing with it and just putting it on the side,
Yeah.
we do it and we shouldn't have to do it.
Right. And I want to add to that of like, while our community is resilient, wouldn't it be nice if we can just be at peace? Like, because I applaud and I love how our communities have transcended and like really survived. But the fact that like it would just be nice for the things that are causing us to have to be resilient in all aspects of our life. I would love for that to disappear so we can just exist and be people and like be ourselves and our full blackness without the stress of like I need to be resilient in this moment because of XYZ reasons. um it would just be, it would be a little nice just to not
Just
be
a little
like
bit.
just a
Just a
little
little
nice. Just a little bit.
a bit.
um,
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I,
yeah, and I
I
also, yeah, and I honestly want to just um really just, I'm very grateful to have met you, especially granted with us too, ride or die. Um, but yeah, I really appreciated the space and the insights that you shared in class a lot of times, because that was the voice that needed to be heard at that moment. Um, and yeah, and
oh,
I hope that the classes after us, there's not just only one. It's like, shoot, like I pray for 15, a little bit.
uh,
Um, but yeah, I'm grateful to have met you. That's all I'm gonna say before I start boohoo crying on this podcast. And they're gonna be like, girl, what is this? I took time to acknowledge Mulika because Malika's presence, when I mean y'all, the only one, that was Mulika. And he held and commanded space in a very unique and beautiful way. So that's Mulika. I'm gonna move to the next question before I boohoo cry. So the next question is, um, I'm gonna pick a little bit of a lighter one. What does representation and diversity in EHS and global health mean to you and the work that you plan to continue doing and or start doing?
ooh, Tara,
That's a lot.
it's
There's
a
no right or
lot.
wrong answer.
It's a lot, but I will also tearfully begin by saying it was such an honor being in your presence in class and outside class. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for also being just the mouthpiece that many of us relied on, sometimes either by default. So thank you for doing that. Diversity for me means many things,
Yeah.
because I feel like not just even the fact that I am of African roots and I can use that to check a box. It's not that. It's that I have sat at the nexus of just so many meeting points
Mm.
where it's things that are outside of me. It's experiences that I've had. That is diversity. And
Yeah.
I feel that going back to Madhupai's talk, which I feel like you cite at the
Thank
beginning
you.
of the talk,
Yeah.
is in as much as I am being exposed to these new learnings as a result of accomplishing a public health degree, is I never want to lose sight of why it is that we do the work that we do, because public health is public for a reason. Like, we are there for communities, we are there as advocates in every facet or every space we find ourselves in, be it in a lab, be it in front of a podium, be it in a classroom, be it in a podcast. Like, we are there to hopefully capture the sentiment and the experience of so many people who have gone before us, people who are continually suffering still, and their voices, their experiences are not highlighted. So for me, that is what diversity is, and I will pause there for now.
I mean, I agree. I actually have nothing to add. I think you encompass that perfectly about just different ways to interpret diversity. And sometimes I wish other people saw it that way, where like diversity isn't just visual, right? It's like it's something a lot deeper than that. And it could be diversity of people's callings and like what they feel like their life purpose is, or what their purpose is when you go into public health. Like you said, public health is meant to serve the people. And it's like the diversity, and when someone says you're people, what does that mean to you? That's diverse. Also, like diversity of voices, and like you said, experiences. Representation goes beyond like I know we were mentioning earlier about visually, but representation is also like representation of like folks who align on certain ways, or certain ways of being, or certain like things we're advocating for. That's representation. Because like if it's an echo chamber where it's like a whole bunch of yes men, everybody yeah yeah yeah, yeah, then it's just kind of like what's
Wow.
going on here.
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah, and we definitely need that more just in general in our environmental health spaces, as we talk about like even like our different like ethnicities of like representation in that sense. Because environmental health looks a lot different, like you shared, in Kenya versus environmental health problems in Oakland. Two different things. Or like global health, um, or global environmental health, also very different. So I think the way you talked about diversity is perfect
Wow.
for what you shared. That's basically a long-winded, long-winded answer of I totally agree with what you said.
Not really. I mean, I think you have this beautiful way of like, making things sound so much more clearer, and I really
Yours
appreciate.
was
Also,
pause. Yours was clear. Yours is very clear. Let's not
still
say it wasn't clear. It was very clear. We had to pause the tape. It was very clear.
very clear.
Very
Okay,
clear.
taking that. But also to just give context to environmental health is more than physical. Like,
Yes.
like like environmental health is so much more than what we can touch and feel and smell. Like, it's
Yep.
all these other things that affect our senses in so many other ways that sometimes are intangible, and
Yep.
hopefully giving voice to those experiences and those feelings and those harms, um
Yep.
or
Yep.
highlights, because we always we also should um be cognizant of the fact that if we're always speaking from like a disparity narrative,
Nope. Say it.
it's
Say it.
it perpetuates these storylines and narratives that are completely incomplete, because our
Right.
communities are just as full of like knowledge
Right.
knowledge assets that also need to be highlighted. So yes, in as much as we are calling out
Right.
the harms that do happen, please also call out like also this.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm really glad you said that, where it's like yes, things are happening, but also like these are ways and very creative and innovative ways of which we are like adapting. We
And
should have
original. Some of these things are
original,
original.
right? No, for real. Yeah. And I also want to take time right now to highlight the ways that in which me and Mulika are interpreting environment are very different than the way environmental health sits right now. And I want to acknowledge that because me and Mulika both have talked about this. And we went into EHS, we're like, yeah, environment is trees and soil and stuff, but it's also this. And that's kind of where the divide in our field is as of right now. It's getting a little better, but there's some more I don't want to call it traditional, but I'm going to have to traditional sense of environmental health, which is what people think: clean air, water, sanitation, hygiene, um, nature, soil, all those good things, and that's good. But there's also what Malika is talking about, which is the intangible, like yeah, the intangible things like your social environment, your
Yes.
built environment, like
Yes.
stuff like how we were talking about imposter syndrome and that environment of being in a classroom setting and how that impacts your ability to learn or your health, you know? And what does health mean? Like you can really spiderweb it out. And so I just want to take space to talk about how me and Malika's interpretation of environment is very wide and broad. And honestly, it should be. So for folks who are listening and are like, well, it just sounds boring. Trust me, built environment, very interesting stuff. Social environment, everything is an environment. You cannot get out of environment, workplace environment. I can stop.
Yes.
I'll stop, but it's everywhere. And it does impact your health and your ability to do whatever you want to do. Um, and I also want to talk about Malika's point about not viewing communities in a deficit lens, because when you start viewing people through the lens of a deficit or like viewing them through like trying to pathologize what's happening
Yes.
to them, you're not seeing that community in its full self, in its full identity, and you're not going to be able to do very impactful work if you're viewing people as kind of like a through that lens. So just want to add to Malika already said it. I just added like a sprinkle. I just added
Enroll
sprinkle
in
on
your
the
class right now. Tara, please, when are we starting this class of yours?
oh
Please.
Jesus. I would not be a good teacher if they would leave my class. Okay, next question. Could you describe, actually, are there any unique challenges that you faced as a student, as an international student, just in general in your journey that you would like to highlight or maybe bring light to that maybe folks are not aware of?
I feel like when I was a much newer international,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah,
I also want to plug the fact that I have transitioned from international student to permanent resident to
gotcha.
naturalized citizen.
Okay, thank you for my bad.
No,
I didn't know
no,
that.
you didn't know. You were not privy to that information. So
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge that I was in international status for a long time. So that is like the experience that I will speak to this particular question is
Okay.
I I I wish more traditional students um brought in international students into their fold, because
I
I
see.
think that is a way to get a perspective that is so different and so unique. And yes, we may struggle with a few words when we read sentences. We may have just our own lenses that we're coming in with that don't quite mesh, automatically with the US view. So give us some patience and some time, but I wish more spaces or more classrooms allowed for for a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Two, um, the ability to be able to afford school. Just we did not have as many opportunities to tap into funding opportunities without compromising the visa status that we were on. So
Right.
it's just one conversation that I feel that I wish could have left the international office. Like I just wish more of just traditional students just knew how much harder it was um, to finance our education. 3, public health needs to be a STEM degree, because if we knew that from the get-go, and just how crucial that is sometimes to advocating for ourselves and getting visas to going to schools that give us STEM degrees, because as the narrative goes, is that STEM degrees are the future. It would be a lot more easier to just like cut through the fluff and actually just know that the degrees that we're pursuing are just STEM degrees from the get-go. And I just wish that was communicated a little bit more better in school settings. So,
you know what? I'm glad you said that, because one of the interesting thing is that public health is not STEM, but concentrations or specific programs that would fit under public health can and have been classified as STEM in other universities, like epidemiology is a STEM program. Not at, well, only one program, only one the 1 year epi program is STEM at Berkeley, but the 2 year is not as of right now, which is a whole other thing. But for folks who don't know why STEM is very important, also for international students, it's the difference between getting a 1 year work visa and a 3 year work visa. And the problem is that a lot of jobs or workplaces here are not, most of them are not willing to hire a 1 year, like a student or a graduate who has a 1 year work visa versus a 3 year. So it makes it incredibly hard, not only for them to get jobs in school and then post school. So that's why a STEM program is super important for international students, but also if it doesn't impact you, most people don't know. And I only know because another student at UC Berkeley, her name is Melie. Hey, Melie. Melie, you know her too, yeah. She took the time to educate me and others about why it was so important. And so shout out to her and the work that she's doing and will continue doing. But yes, thank you so much for sharing that insight, because it's very important. And yeah, okay.
Thanks for asking the question, Tara.
Huh?
Thank you for asking that particular question.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing. And just, yeah, it's just not okay. I have a lot of thoughts on how institutions can be better, but I'm gonna save that for something else. Okay, last question in the tea time. Could you describe a moment or experience that made you particularly aware of cultural differences in academia and outside academia?
Ooh, wow.
I feel like that's a heavy question.
That is a huge question that could go many ways, but
yes,
this is one thing I think I will say based on my experience is the fact that I've had the privilege of having a US education at good schools does not qualify me as a forever expert. So I feel that the question that I ask myself, or I try to interrogate myself every single time I get into a space, is, am I listening? Like, am I listening? Like, am I listening? Because my biggest fear is leading with the fact that I am educated and then brandishing my accomplishments just because I have had this exposure to academia, and that is my speak. I can speak that comfortably, and that is my biggest concern and my biggest check. So I'm probably not even answering your question, but
no, you answered it.
I think that stands out for me as far as I think difference that I never want to lose sight of, because I feel like there's so much learning and wisdom that resides outside academia also. And I think
Yes.
it would it is imperative on us to be
Yeah.
cognizant of that and cultivate those knowledge bases into our
Yeah.
experience, our reservoir, and our pots and our wells. And I am done.
Uh, what I'm hearing and what you said was just having like always being in a space of like being humble and just having humility. And I think that that is so crucial. And like in the earlier conversation about being a double agent, where it's like, am I listening? Because a lot of these folks be hearing but not listening. Like that, I
Oof.
hear you. No, I want you to listen to me. Like I don't, and you know, and I think what you're saying is that in every space you kind of check yourself of like, how can I be in a space of learning and growth, even if quote unquote I may have the degrees that might say I'm
Yes.
the merit wise, I may be viewed as the
Yes.
most qualified, but really always being in a space of learning because you can always learn from somebody, any age, any demographic, you can always learn. And I think that that is something that in a lot of high level institutions, you kind of see that whatever light switch flicked off. Like they think, because I go to XYZ school, I worked at XYZ place for 10 plus years, I know more than you. And it's just like, I truly don't believe that. But I do acknowledge that I definitely used to be that way. And it wasn't until literally my uncle, I'll give my uncle a shout out. He one time told me, he was like, oh, so you think because you have this, you know more than people, you know? And I was just kind of like, oh. And he was like, it was a side note argument with my sister. And he was like, you think because you're older than her, you know more. And that's not always the case. And I was just like, oh, and it was just like a very gentle redirect, but that's translated into everything. And so I really love how you were just talking about being humble in all spaces, even though the age is very different from this, but it's the same message of like remaining humble and you don't know who you can learn from and who it's going to come
Yes.
from.
Yes.
Right.
Your uncle.
Shout out to my uncle, man. He's a
Oh,
funny guy. I think I'll share for me, and I'm sharing this because it specifically relates to you, Malika. I don't even know if you do it, but
oh,
when I first met Malika, any person he talks to, it doesn't matter if you were talking to him 5 minutes ago, he always leads with a greeting. He always says, hi, insert whoever's name. And it's something very small, but I think that that intention of acknowledging someone first before speaking or asking or how their day is, you're always kind of like, hey, Tyra, da, 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 da. And it's something you do all the time, never fails. And I think that for me, not that that was a negative, but it was just like a, you know what? Like, I should be greeting people. I should just be walking up talking about, hey, da, 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 da. That's a lot. But I think that acknowledgement is something that's very small, but that was the first thing I noticed about Malika. And so that was something cultural that I realized that I don't do, but it's definitely something I incorporate now where before I talk to anybody, I'm always like, hey, something, hey, da da da. Um, and yeah, so that's something I actually learned from you that I don't know if you knew, but I picked up on it and I've incorporated it into my life. So yeah. Thank you.
what words? I cannot respond.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Thank
yeah, yeah, that's something I've picked up and I will never let it go. But it's very subtle of acknowledging someone, hi, hi, and then speaking to them. So
you. Oh,
alrighty.
say
So
thank you so much, Tyra.
oh, love you, Malika. So we are sadly coming to a close of this amazing conversation. And so I want to thank Malika for being here, for sharing his experience just in academia and outside and the work that he's doing. And I also want to thank folks for listening in. And so I want to end with some questions about self care and any closing thoughts or advice you may have for folks who are listening. So, first question is, how do you stay grounded with your community?
Ooh. You ask some big questions.
I know. Need to lowball, like, what's your favorite color?
But I will try to do it on so I belong to various communities.
Yes,
So obviously how I deal with them is a bit different, but
yes,
some of the things that I do that stand out for me are I love voice notes and voice memos,
yes.
or like obsessed. So
Yeah.
when I feel no, most of the time when people text me, I respond with a voice note because there's
Yes.
something so personal and it's like a voicemail, but not. And sometimes you can ad lib, not correct a mistake, and just kind of roll into it. And the beauty of it, you actually get to save it and keep it and listen to it again. So I feel like it's a habit that I picked up
Yeah.
through COVID. Um, two, I I enjoy I enjoy like getting on like we used to have again, these are all COVID habits because the world changed. So just having scheduled talks with just like certain people in my life.
Yeah.
And those moments for me have been enriching, particularly like uh, if if they're not just like moments of just like good things that are happening, just getting to know like how your people are doing at whatever stage they are in life. And yes, some of those moments are not regular. I'm not saying that I do this regularly, no. But when those moments do happen, I cherish them and they help catapult me to the next moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, recently I heard someone like say they write letters every weekend, like actual
Oh,
physical letters. I'm
yeah.
not there yet, but
Oh, okay.
it is a goal. Maybe
Yeah.
one person a weekend. It is a
Yeah.
goal. I'm not
Oh, cool. Okay.
okay.
No, like the letter thing threw me. Like, oh, that's really cool.
I know. And this
Yeah.
is like tech.
Oh, I know that person when they
Uh,
receive that letter feel really special because that's amazing.
Not there yet, though.
Yeah,
Just
not there yet. Not
for
yet.
our audiences, I
Right.
am crawling.
Okay. I'm gonna actually I'm gonna ask them. So, um, can you share a personal story or experience where self-care played a pivotal role in a major life decision or a transition?
Ooh, where's
If
self?
not, I do have a backup. That's a lot easier. That one's
What's the backup? I'm curious.
the backup one is what are some daily or weekly self-care routines? We can do that one.
Let's do
Let's do
that.
that one. Let's do that
Let's do
one.
that one.
Let's do that one.
I picked this actually from Trevor,
Oh,
my
cool.
mentor from UCSB. So
Okay.
he says that where he sits, like his workstation,
Mm-hmm.
he has letters and essays for the things that he got admitted to. So, like, let's say, like his statement of purpose, when he got admitted to his PhD program or like a certain fellowship, and also just things that he didn't succeed in, like things he failed in. So he has this like wall of like just pieces that people have either recognized him for, like little notes, and I've actually
Yeah.
replicated that for
Yeah.
myself at home.
Oh,
And I look at it, and this is where I do my work. This is where like I like to sit underneath all these clippings, partly just to remind me of just the journey. And one of them is like my admission to Berkeley Public Health. Like I have that letter. I just like to look at like the statement of purpose. Like what did I actually say for them to actually admit me? And
yeah.
sometimes I read parts of it. Sometimes I read the whole of it.
Yeah.
It before I have to go speak. And I also read the
Yeah.
things that I accepted to, just because these things fuel my drive, my ambition, and my fire. Because
Yeah.
all, we're all the sum of like all the good things and the bad things that happen to us. And I try to be as authentic as possible, like in my storytelling. So I bring these things with me. So that's one thing I do. Two, I enjoy being fit. So just like having that spare hour
Yeah,
every day just to like run, walk, lift something helps me.
right.
So and so like I think the benefit of growing up in a single parent home was learning how to cook early.
Yeah.
And my cooking obviously does not compare to my mom and my aunties, but I cook and I eat and I enjoy it and I can self-love that way. So
Oh, well, thank you, Malika, for just sharing a part of you and your journey. Yeah, and I want to thank folks for listening, and hopefully you got picked up one of Malika's many gems. And yeah, thank you so much, Malika. Stay tuned for our next episode.
thank you so much, Tyra, for being so kind and gracious and for holding space for me and so many other people that came before me. You are the best.
Thank you. All right, see y'all soon. Bye.